Good morning. Our opening words this morning as we light both our flaming chalice and our candles for Advent are again from Reverend Erica Hewitt, from whom we've been drawing our Advent readings. The third week in that spiritual season is the week for joy, and the pink candle is the candle for joy. She writes, Advent is a season of waiting, of expectation, and of longing. On this third Sunday of Advent, we light one more candle for our wreath, the pink candle that represents joy. How is it, you might wonder, that we could celebrate joy when there's also so much suffering in the world? Isn't that contradictory? It's an exercise of faith to address the unknown, which can also be called the not yet known. Advent is a season of watchfulness. We listen and keep vigil for the promise of things to come. We speak and sing about the promise of the not yet manifest, as reflected in the words of familiar hymns. O come, Emmanuel. People look east, the time is near. Love, the guest, is on the way. There's a star in the east, it will lead you. These are the songs of the hopeful songs of faith. These hymns encourage us to enter and consent to the practice of opening to possibility. Joy is one of the qualities that, if not yet present within us, will come in its own time. This light of joy then doesn't require that you experience joy right now, today, in this immediate surroundings. Instead, it's a reminder to wait with faithfulness that overshadows pain and cynicism. May the lighting of this candle bring us patience, grant us faith, and draw us closer to joy. And we are singing another of those Advent hymns this morning, but it's not one you'll find in your hymnal. It's my favorite Advent song, and it's to the tune of Star of the County Down, a good Irish dancing tune. And the words are inspired by the Magnificat, which is a song that the character Mary sings in the Bible, in the book of Luke. And I like it so much because in that song, we hear the voice of a young, unwed woman, a Jewish woman, singing out about the power of a God who she sees as love and as bringing down those who are oppressing and lifting up those who have struggled. And so if the word God does or doesn't resonate with you, I invite you to imagine the world turning towards justice and imagine who in our midst these days might be singing out that Magnificat song to you. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing Canticle of the Turning. The words are in your order of service. standing in body or in spirit as we read our unison affirmation together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Parish in Bedford, gathered in love and service for justice and peace. We're going to pause the welcome and announcements because our young folks who are leading the Time for All Ages have an important program they need to be sure to go to upstairs. So we're going to have an interjection of a Time for All Ages led by our youth, and we'll get back to the welcome and announcements in a moment.
Thank you, Megan. I'd like to invite our senior youth group members to come on up and join. Yes, if that's comfortable for you. When you're talking, put them on, and then when you're talking, you can take them off. There we go. So recently, our senior youth group went on an adventure, and today we were talking about curiosity. And I knew that I was very curious to learn about what it is that you all did, where you went. And so to start, Corinna is going to share with us a brief overview so my curiosity can be sated.
So on Friday we went to Boston and we sort of learned about the program that we were going to be doing, and there was a bunch of other churches that were also helping. And then the next day on Saturday, after we slept over in the church, we set up and organized a bunch of clothing that people had donated into different clothing sections, and each church had their own little store, and it was like a thrift store that was free for the homeless people to come in and get what they needed, especially because it's winter and it's cold. So we had the pants section, and we were organizing it by waist size, men's and women, stuff like that, and we helped people find what they needed, and they had tickets that we would check off, you got pants. And in the middle of helping them with that, we would go in groups around Boston Central, and we handed out socks, and the staff that were working with us were also homeless themselves or recently housed, so they had their own experiences that they got to share with us, which was really interesting. But it was really fun to hand out socks and feel good about giving someone something that they needed, and just seeing their joy and gratitude was really nice. And then we went back to the thrift store and helped out more, and then around the end of the day, or around before we were about to leave, we talked with all the other churches about our experiences, positive and negative, and also things that we could do in the future that would relate to helping the homeless. So we kind of learned all these cool new things and changed our stereotypes that we had in our head. So it was a really great experience.
Thank you, Corinna. And one of the main questions that I had, the first question that I had, is that obviously you got to spend time with friends. And for those of you who needed it, you got, service hours taken care of. But you can hang out with friends and take care of service hours in so many different ways. So I'm curious, what was it that made you want to do this particular experience?
It was really making an impact. These people needed help, and we gave it to them. And that was just a really nice experience to have, even though we got to hang out with friends the entire time.
Anybody else?
I know that when I do other community service, a lot of the times it's behind the scenes stuff, and I don't directly see the community that I'm affecting. It was really nice to talk to unhomed people, to hear their stories, to hear what they like and what they dislike, to know them as people and know how we personally affect them.
Was there anything surprising about the experience? I'm sure you were well prepared for it by your advisors and in preparation, but there was anything that while you're there for the whole overnight and doing all the different things was surprising to you personally?
I manned the women's pants section, and I found it kind of surprising that mostly people wanted leggings. I expected jeans to be a lot more popular, mainly because I view jeans as like warmer, they have pockets, but.
So I found it surprising that people really had their own styles and like preferences, because at first I had the stereotype in my head where like people would take anything that they needed because it's going to be cold and you're going to want like the warmest thing or just like anything that you could get, because like resources are so sparse. But people actually were really like, oh, I don't really like that cut, or I like jeans instead of like cargo pants, and just like stuff like that, which was really interesting to me because I wasn't expecting that, and it was fun to like find what they personally liked, and it like really humanized them because it showed them that they also had their own style just like me.
So I think you were just made to talk, but you don't have to if you don't want to, just because you were handed the mic.
I was just handed it to you, sorry.
Corinna's up here just being like, you're talking now. Are there any plans for any follow-up by the senior youth group or other ways that you are thinking as a group to continue being involved in this organization or similar projects?
So at the end of it, we got back from at the end we donated all of the clothes that we didn't end up that people didn't take to a homeless shelter. And when we got back, we sat in a circle and we talked about the experience, and we went into our own groups and we planned for what we were gonna do after, so that we could make an impact outside of the event. So we decided that we were gonna try to either we were thinking sometimes you see people on the street when you're at an intersection and they have a sign. So we were thinking about making little packets or boxes or of stuff that we could give them, so you have something in your car that you can give a person, because usually if you see somebody on the side of the street, you don't really have anything you can give them. Because it was really great when we were having the socks and we were able to hand them out to people on the streets. So just for something like that, when we could give people something if you see anybody that needs it.
Another idea that we had was to have a dinner with people who are unhoused in, let's say, our community here, and really connect to these people and see the human inside of them. I was thinking that'd be a good idea.
The box idea that Taylor said, some of the items in the box would be granola bars or socks or a gift card to Dunkin' Donuts or something, because often when you give someone money, we were told this by the staff that you don't really know what they're gonna do with that, and they could use it for not really helpful items. So we were thinking if we gave them the items themselves or a gift card, that would be really helpful, because then you know sort of what they're going to use it for, and they can get food and stuff like that. You're next to me. Okay.
I also want to reiterate that hand warmers are a huge want. They're really helpful, so if you can keep some of those in your car, it'd be great.
So clearly, Corinna and Gray are in charge. I want to be clear about that. One, two, they still can't make you speak, so it's okay. It's always a choice. I was wondering if anybody else has any other thoughts on this experience that you want to share with both the younger youth and the kids of this congregation, as well as your parents and everybody else in the community. Any other thoughts, things that you learned, or things that were eye-opening to you?
Just really, in general, have an open mind about people or things that you don't know about, because, it's okay to make, judgments in your head, but, sometimes if they overtake us, it can really cause problems. So if you try to keep an open mind to anything, you'll be able to, learn more, because if you have a set, idea of what a person is like or what an experience is like, it's gonna affect you in going out and trying to doing that, because you already think you know everything about it, when in reality there's so many little details that you wouldn't think about. Okay.
To all the youth that I see sprinkled around, when your time comes to do this project, do it. It is a great experience, and I'm very happy that I went on it, even though I was like, I'd rather be spending my Friday night doing something else, video games, you know. But it was an experience that I think changed my perspective a lot.
Well, Corinna, Julian, Taylor, now Emery, Tyler, and Gray, and Bob, and all of our senior youth group supporters and advisors, thank you so much for bringing First Parish in Bedford out into the greater world and sharing that with us. And so thank you all, and there you go. And thank you. And I now invite our young people to go to their classes along with their teachers, pre-K to 5th grade. Please bring your coats, any layers, mittens, please. We'll be going outside briefly and it's chilly.
Well, that was awesome. The kids are all right. You know what I mean? Can you believe Christmas is only 2 weeks away? How did that happen? I mean, we can tell time by our nativity figures that are making their way around the ledge there. They're creeping up. So I'm going to say a few things about the next weeks and what you might expect and what you can take part in. Next Sunday, the 18th, we have our annual carol sing. It's led by Brad. It's right here at 10. It's really for all ages, and it's fun for all ages. It's wear your PJs if you want to, don your Santa hat, and come sing your favorite holiday songs. And here's some readings mixed in there, too, and then stay for cocoa and treats and coffee hour, community hour. On Tuesday, the 20th, in the evening, we are all invited to go caroling. This is something that has sprung up, lay-led. We love that. They were willing to move it off Thursday night so that choir can meet Thursday nights, and all of the awesome singers plus all of the everybody singers can go on a Tuesday night, and that is meeting here in the common room for snacks and drinks at 5, and then caroling around at 6, and then back in there for some more treats. And you can take part in whichever aspect you like. It's come for as little or as much as you like, and you can talk to Erin Campbell with questions. And I think also Mariah Tumbleson-Shaw and Christine Bennett, I think, is the third person. Is that right? Christy Martin. Christy Martin. And I want you to know that our choir is headed over to the VA tomorrow night to share a brief holiday concert with the veterans there. In the past, we've said that we'd love all of us to go along as well. It's not going to happen that way because of COVID, but I just want you to know that the church has left the building and that we are serving as a ministry to the local the folks in our community, and to really keep in your heart the veterans and all those who might need some extra kindness this season. If you are wanting to attend a concert, you can. Don't worry. On Friday, December 16th at 7, right here, you can honor Beethoven's birthday. It's going to be an astounding program with music by one of the greatest composers of all time. On Christmas Eve, we have 2 services at 3:30. Note the new time, 3:30, not 4, and 8. The 3:30 is our family service, and we will have a no-rehearsal Christmas pageant. You heard it. Please join us for Holy Chaos. It's actually highly organized and prepped by the staff, but it means it's just a lot of fun with high energy, a festive spirit, and there's room for everyone. If you want to be a donkey or an elephant, you too, there's room for you. We end with Silent Night by candlelight, and you will be done in time for Bedford Santa. If you happen to be a Bedford person and that's your tradition going home, you won't miss it. That's why we moved it slightly earlier. The 8 o'clock service usually begins, the 8 o'clock service, as usual, begins at 7:40 because we want enough time to relax into the most beautiful prelude and music. Really, we have extra musicians come in. It's no holds barred, just gorgeous. We will hear a homily by Annie, and we'll end with Silent Night by Candlelight. It's also my understanding that both services will be online this year for the first time. We know it's dark at that time, and yet we want to try to make it very accessible to as many people as possible. So just know we are doing our best. We wish it weren't grainy. We're going to do our best. We want everyone to be able to come. Christmas and New Year's both fall on Sundays this year. We won't be meeting here for a service on Christmas Day, but a couple local ministers have worked to create an online service that will be made available. So you can turn it on and hear great readings, a good sermon, music if you are interested in that. And of course, all are welcome to come help ring the Blinn bell on Christmas morning, as was requested by the donor of the bell herself a couple hundred years ago. And so it's rung every Christmas morning since way back then. And you will hear that announced on Anno. It's going to happen. We don't know the time yet, right? We need someone to spearhead that. 11. Thank you, John. Are you going to spearhead that? I hate this war term. Head that up. Thank you. So at 11, come meet here a couple minutes before 11. Take part in that. And the tradition also says on New Year's Eve at midnight, come a little before midnight. All are welcome to have a little raucous fun and ring the bell at midnight to bring in the new year. And it's a happy crew. I've come many times, and it's fun. And also, traditionally, the service falling just after the new year has been a lay-led service, often called a cusp service. Many folks have been involved with creating something beautiful that happens that Sunday. It's often poetry or pancakes. There's been art and music. And it's something less formal, but very lovely. And if you are interested in helping to host that and make it happen, talk to Annie or me if you are interested. All right, so that's the end of the announcements. Welcome, one and all. If you see a blue card in your pew and want to stay in touch, that's a way to do it. If you're thirsty or hungry and want some company, we do hope you'll join us for community hour following this service. Welcome, welcome, whoever you are, whatever is going on in your life. We are so glad that you're here. And now we're going to have some joys and concerns of our community, and Marge from Lay Pastoral Care Team is going to lead us in that.
Good morning. My name is Marge Heckman, and I'm a member of the Lay Pastoral Team here at First Parish. And this is a time in the service when we invite anyone who would like to come forward and share a joy or a concern. We'll start with those in the sanctuary and then go to Zoom. Thanks. I will light one final candle for all those thoughts and concerns that we keep in our hearts.
I forgot one announcement, which is that if you are interested in a Q&A session, led by the search committee. It's not today at 11:45. It's online at 4 p.m. on Zoom. Sorry about that goof. Our reading this morning is by Sikh activist and author Valerie Kaur. Wonder is where love begins, but the failure to wonder is the beginning of violence. Once people stop wondering about others, once they no longer see others as part of them, they disable their instinct for empathy. And once they lose empathy, they can do anything to them or allow anything to be done to them. Entire institutions built to preserve the interests of one group of people over another depend on this failure of imagination. To wonder is to cultivate a sense of awe and openness to others' thoughts and experiences, their pain, their wants, and needs. It is to look upon the face of anyone or anything and say, "You are a part of me I do not yet know."
In this community where we strive to cultivate that sense of awe and wonder towards each other and ourselves, we are able to show up with care as we struggle with loss and show up in the streets of Boston, cultivating more empathy for those who don't have homes. I invite you to give generously this morning to our offering to sustain the many different types of good ministry that happen here in this congregation. In my years here in the Boston area, I have participated in a variety of protests. And one of the roles I most often take in a protest is that of a marshal. Now, some of you may be well familiar with the role of a marshal at a rally or march. Basically, their job is to try to keep the people in the protest safe. Sometimes that means blocking traffic when they're crossing a road. Sometimes it means trying to protect from police intervention. And sometimes it means dealing with people who do not like what you are trying to say, who do not agree with your message, and who might be approaching you with hostility. So, when you are training to be a marshal at a protest, you want to have some skills in de-escalation, in bringing people down from a high energy, angry place. And one of the best tools for that, and my favorite, is to approach such a person with curiosity and to just ask them questions. Oh, that's what you think. Oh, okay. So why do you believe that? Oh, interesting. And when did that happen to you? And pretty soon, they're telling you all about why they think you're so wrong, and you're slowly moving them away from the group. It's a great way to help someone calm down without affirming their beliefs, because you're just asking, but also without pushing back and disagreeing, which then causes escalation. The thing is, I'm pretty good at using curiosity as a tool or a tactic. That I'm pretty good at. But when it comes to the actual spiritual practice of being genuinely open and wondering, it doesn't come quite as easily for me. Now, my mom is one of those people who is just naturally very curious. And I know there are probably some of you out there, too, who are like that. Like, we'll be on a family road trip and we'll stop off at a rest area, and when we come back out of the bathrooms, she'll be like, oh, I met the most interesting woman when we were washing our hands, and like, she's on this trip for this reason, and blah, blah, blah. And she'll like have learned her life story. Because she just wants to know about people. And she loves reading memoirs for the same reason, like autobiographies and memoirs and all of this. Like, she just wants to know. And I really admire that trait in her and in others in whom I encounter it. But maybe some of you are more like me. And maybe sometimes there's things that get in the way of your openness and curiosity. For me, the thing that often gets in the way is that I really want to know. And in order to know, I can't really be wondering because I have to know. Sometimes that looks like pretending I know what's going on when I don't. I've gotten a lot better at not doing that. But when I was younger, I was the master at sort of nodding along in such a way that it looked like I knew exactly what people were talking about, but I had no idea. And then when I got a smartphone, it was even easier because I could like low-key Google it and be like, well, oh yeah, uh-huh. And another way that would look sometimes is with friends or loved ones, I'd want to like almost like predict their reactions to things. And so if someone came to me with like talking about something difficult, I'd want to like say the exact right thing and try to like know exactly how they felt about it so I could like empathize without having to ask any questions. I've also gotten better at that one. I've learned that it's actually really helpful and people really like it when you say, oh gosh, I haven't heard of that organization, person, movie, musician, whatever. Tell me about it. Or, gosh, that seems like a lot what you're dealing with. How are you feeling about it? Instead of trying to guess. But the other thing is that I often want to know where something is headed and whether I can trust someone. And I think that's a pretty common human experience. When we encounter another human, our brain is trying to sort out and see if this person is someone who is safe, who is good, who we can trust, or someone who is bad, and do we need to go into some kind of alert mode? Do we need to go into some kind of protection mode? This human brain sorting impulse, I think, comes from our evolution and comes from a really important survival instinct. Because it's really important to categorize quickly if you're like, is this plant poison or food? Is this wild animal like a threat or someone I can hunt? Is this person an enemy from a neighboring tribe that might kill me, or is it one of my people who is safe? Of course, that doesn't carry over very well to our current modern lifestyle. I really appreciated what Corinna Dogan-West said up here earlier when she said, it's okay to have a stereotype in your mind, but you have to keep an open mind, acknowledging that it's so normal that our brains try to sort and categorize and figure out who people are as soon as we see them without having much context. But the important thing is to not just stop there. The thing is, there's so many influences that cause our brains to make these snap decisions about good, bad, safe, unsafe. One very interesting anecdote from a book I've referenced before in preaching, a book called What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry, is an anecdote that Dr. Perry shared about a young man who was in a residential program, a program for young people who had behavior challenges that had gotten really challenging in their homes or schools. And this young man who had suffered a lot of abuse, he had come a long way in this program and was doing a lot better. But there was one particular teacher, and any time this teacher would approach this young man, he would just flip out. And they couldn't figure out what was going on. The teacher was a kind person. The teacher was approaching with kindness, sometimes to help with an assignment or offer comfort or support, and it was not working. And then one time, Dr. Perry was supervising a visit from this young man's father. And he knew that this young man's father had been abusive. And he noticed that the young man's father wore Old Spice, the scent. And in fact, I believe that Dr. Perry said he noticed it because it reminded him of his own father, who he had very positive memories of and had a positive reaction. But that got him thinking, oh, I had a reaction. And he asked the teacher, this is a weird question, but do you happen to wear Old Spice? And the teacher said, well, yes, I do. And he realized what was happening. The brain doesn't consciously think you smell like danger. You just smell it and you think danger. They were able to then problem solve around this issue with this young person. But for most people walking around in the world, we don't have a team of support people trying to help us figure out why our bodies and brains react certain ways to certain people. We're just left to figure it out on our own. And that's part of why being curious is so important. It's so important to be curious about ourselves, too, to turn inwards with that same openness and compassion and wonder, what's going on in me? Not like, why am I like this, but like, why am I like this? Because it is just very understandable and human that our brains seek safety and clear categories. And also, as stated in the opening reading, that lack of curiosity can lead to terrible consequences. Valerie Kaur says, failure to wonder is the beginning of violence. And as Megan noted, Kaur is a Sikh activist Some of you may be familiar with her work and know that she began her work when a family friend of her family's, a Sikh man, was killed in a hate crime after September 11th. And she made a documentary then about violence that was directed towards the Sikh community, Muslims, and others who were perceived as a threat after September 11th. When we combine this human brain desire to categorize people quickly and decide whether they are safe with systems such as white supremacy, Christian supremacy, then we get people who see someone immediately as terrorist and decide to kill them. Our own spiritual ancestors, the people who came to this land and were part of founding this parish, did similar things. They used the systems that they were used to believing in, systems that said that people from Europe were more human than people from other continents, systems and beliefs that said people who practiced a certain type of Christianity were more human than other people. And so their brains categorized and said, the people who live here in this land don't matter, and we can take their land and we can kill them, and we can enslave people. And we know that at least the first minister of this church had one person who he enslaved, who we've honored with a plaque. And so we have a complicated legacy that we inherit. We who are gathered here today, who have so many different beliefs, many different theologies, and yet we inherit this cultural Christianity. Someone recently on the internet called Unitarian Universalist humanist Protestantism, and I thought, well, that's pretty apt in a lot of ways. It's a complex thing to wrestle with, particularly at this time of year, when Christmas is all around us, and many of us celebrate it in many different ways, and some of us don't. And we practice Advent here, but not necessarily with the same theology as those who founded this parish many centuries ago. It's a complex legacy. And today in our world, there is so much violence. Lately, I've been particularly disturbed, as I imagine many of you also have been, by the anti-Semitism that is on the internet, by people saying horrific things about Jewish people that are going unchecked. I've been particularly scared for my trans and queer friends as I see people targeting drag shows all over the country and taking violent means to shut them down. Yes, the failure to wonder can be the beginning of violence, especially when it's combined with Christian supremacy and the cis-heteropatriarchy and so many lies that have been repeated in our culture over and over. But as Core also says, wonder is where love begins. And Alice Walker, the famed novelist, agrees in our Thought to Ponder. More wonder leads to more love. And we desperately need more love. More love for ourselves as we navigate what is often a difficult time of year. The winter solstice can be beautiful and sacred, and also it getting dark at 4:30 can feel awful. There can be holiday stress, expectations, memories that bring up grief. And then, of course, there's the ongoing pandemic and all the difficulties navigating that. We need more love for those around us, knowing that people are going through a lot, and sometimes going through things we have no idea about. health crises, losses, mental health struggles, and more. We need more love for those we might usually ignore, and our young people gave us so many awesome ideas this morning of how we could tangibly offer a little more love to folks who might need some hand warmers or a nice packet of granola bars and socks. We need more love for all those facing violence, all those who are targeted, all those who are bravely showing up at their synagogue or at their drag show saying, "You can't stop us." More love that shows up like getting out the vote, as all those who helped Warnock win. And more love that shows up as the persistence of Brittany Griner's wife who got her freed from Russian prison. Love like the love that an early follower of Jesus ascribed to a young unmarried Jewish pregnant woman who sang a song about a God that would lift up the poor and take down the mighty. Love that can turn the whole world upside down. I know that many of you are dealing with a lot. And I hope in the midst of all that you are dealing with, you find a little more space to be curious. Curious about possibilities for joy, curious about others around you, curious about your own heart. And I hope that that curiosity makes room for more love. May it be so. I invite you to join me in singing our closing hymn. It's We Laugh, We Cry. It's number 354 in your gray hymnal. You can rise in body or in spirit to join in singing. May we find a comfort with more questions than answers. Keep believing in life and in the strength of love. Keep coming together, and we will find our way forward.